it's actually kind of fun to hear some of the things I've been engaged in. As I talk to you today, there's a couple things I want to say after that introduction. First of all, for those of you that know me, you know that I've never done anything by myself. So everything that you just heard about is something that I've had the great pleasure to be engaged with a team of people doing. And Nashville is a great place for that. And when I say Nashville, I'm talking about the Nashville region, the 1.8 million people that reside in this area, because Nashville, after having lived in 11 different cities over the course of my career, one of the things I find unique about Nashville, one of the reasons that Leanne and I decided we wanted to settle here and stop moving when we got here, was because the community is so engaged in itself. It's so engaged in advancing things for itself. I also want to say that, you know, part of what makes this a great community, a great region to live in, is the fact that there are so many partners that we have the opportunity to work with. Working with Jimmy Johnson, particularly on economic development, working with the other chambers. There are 28 chambers in this 10-county region, and those local chambers are very key to causing things to happen. They're a lot closer to the action, and they make a lot of great things happen. So we're happy to be partners with those chambers and with Forward Sumner as well. And then I just want to say something that I always take the opportunity to say when I'm up in this area. The Memorial Foundation, which is based here, is such a strong voice throughout this region, particularly in this area of the region. And with the passing of J.D. Elliott, this entire region lost a very vibrant, very vital, and very broad leader for this entire community. We're excited to be working with Scott. We've been working with Scott Perry and Memorial for quite a while, but always, particularly right now, the other day at our annual meeting, we recognized J.D. for all the many things that he and the Memorial Foundation have done throughout this region over the years. So I always like to remember J.D. So I'm going to start with some unscripted comments, and then because a lot of the information I'm going to share with you is so fresh, I am going to refer, which is not my normal case, to the actual material that's been prepared for me to share with you. First of all, I want to congratulate you. You all really are ahead of the curve in this category of education. You are doing things that other school systems, even within this region, are still talking about and still planning. You're executing activity, particularly in the CTE category, but also generally in making sure that the young people that are products of your school system are moving forward with their post-secondary pursuits. As you will hear, post-secondary certifications, completions, whether it's associate's level, whether it's certifications, whether it's bachelor's degrees, whatever it is, they're going to be absolutely essential to each individual being able to experience the prosperity and the opportunity of the future in this area. And if each of those individuals can't experience that prosperity, then the community's not going to experience the kind of prosperity that we all enjoy. You're ahead of the curve. Some of the things that you're doing with the middle college enrollments, with what you're doing with dual enrollments, what you're doing with AP, what you're creating in terms of the ease with which students continue to have their education experiences that are necessary to their prosperity, that's not happening everywhere. I was saying earlier that I've got 4 kids that live here in Nashville. And by the way, they've lived in 11 different cities. They could live anywhere. They have the skills and the capabilities to live anywhere. They live here because the lifestyle is good and the opportunity is good. But when I see them this weekend, when I tell them what you all are doing up in this area, they may be moving up here so that their kids will have the opportunity that you all are presenting to the population in this area. So I want to start first by congratulating you, and you'll hear a little bit more about that as I go on. There are a couple of other things that we notice as we interact with your school system and with Dr. Phillips and you all as professionals here. First of all, the graduation rate's above the state average, and your college going rate is a full 10 points above the state average. That's a great economic development advantage, as well as fulfilling a humanitarian, your human mission as well. You also scored an average of 20 on the ACT exams. The state, you're closer than many school districts to actually reaching that golden 21 average, which guarantees the opportunity for a Hope Scholarship. Volunteer State is in close proximity, and the partnership with Volunteer State is strong. And again, having that kind of seamless opportunity with those education institutions is key. But we also know that we can't just remain static. And again, I congratulate you on advancing the cause. There are changing demographics occurring that makes it even more urgent that you fulfill, particularly in the CTE category, the mission that you all have undertaken. First of all, the boomers. Are there boomers in the room? Okay, I know that you're all planning to work to age 85. Okay, you're not a boomer. You can't be a boomer. Maybe my eyesight system. Okay. The boomers are aging out, and that gigantic part of the workforce is moving into retirement. We expected them to move toward retirement earlier than they have, but the recession has retained a portion of that workforce that wouldn't have been retained without the recession. But many of those boomers are now concluding that they've had it. That whatever they have is what they're going to leave with, and they're going to move on just because they're tired of doing what they're doing. So those boomers are leaving, and at the same time, because of the population trends that have unfolded over the past several decades, we are not seeing a labor force that is reaching the age to be able to participate in the economy that has a sufficient size to fill all of the jobs that are available. So for those of you that fear that technology is going to be robbing people of job opportunity, the truth is, to maintain our economy, we're going to have to see that technology fill some of those boomer gaps, but we're also going to have to make sure that that workforce that's coming up matches and aligns to the needs that we have going forward. So I just want to say that the demographics are driving us toward an urgency that you're filling in this CTE category. Second, the other thing I want to say to you is that for those of you that may have examined our workforce study, and you can go to NashvilleChamber.com and see that workforce study that we just completed, we look out 5 years into the future, and in some cases a little bit further, to see what workforce availability, what workforce needs that we have. What we have found in our latest study is that the middle skills jobs, that is, jobs that can be filled with people who have achieved a technical certification or achieved an associate's degree, those middle skills jobs is where the largest growth in jobs is taking place. There will still always be an economic advantage, or at least as we see in the future, to a 4-year completion, a completion of a bachelor's level or higher. There will still be an economic and an earning advantage there. But that advantage has shrunk a bit as middle skills jobs have become more important to business and industry to fulfill the needs of that business. I had a conversation a couple of days ago with experts in construction in the Nashville area, people that are staffing construction sites, and what they're telling me is that unskilled labor, the cost of unskilled labor in construction is rising from $13 an hour to over $20 an hour because of the lack of supply of workers in that category. Now, those jobs are going to continue to shrink, but the skill levels jobs in construction, people that have safety certifications, technical certifications, trade training, apprenticeship, etc., those numbers are already moving beyond the $30 an hour to $40 an hour, even at the entry level, because of the lack of supply. So that's just one industry, construction. I also spent a good part of last week over at the Oak Ridge National Labs looking at what they called their manufacturing demonstration facility. And as they're looking at 3D printing and different types of advanced manufacturing industry, they are seeing the qualification levels for the people that will be employed in those advanced industries dropping right into that middle skills category, and they're seeing entry-level positions linked to advanced manufacturing that are in the $80,000 to $100,000 range coming out of those certification programs. So these CTE programs, the type of transition that you're providing to post-secondary education, they're going to be pretty key, and they're going to be key to this whole region, not just this area. But your education system will cause your area to be an attraction to workforce. One last thing on that, and then I'm going to scan to see how much of what I was supposed to tell you I've already told you out of order. The way economic development works, here's some quick information for you about why this area is such a popular place for people to live and to work. Our cost of living in this area is about 90% of the national average. That's average. You compare us to New York, Chicago, Washington, San Francisco, Atlanta, and other places, and we actually have a much larger cost of living advantage than those other places. But that's a 10% cost of living advantage to living here. On the other side, the other half of the discretionary income formula, we have 116% of the national average per capita income. So if you live in this area, you have about a 26% advantage in discretionary income. That is money you don't have to spend on the necessities. That gives you money to get more education. It allows you to buy a home faster. It allows you to pay off education loans faster. It allows a partner to work in your household while you're starting a business, which is another reason that starting businesses move so quickly in this Middle Tennessee area. Now, we can't maintain that lifestyle without growing jobs. And we can't grow jobs unless we have workforce. In the old days, Jimmy will tell you this, in the old days, it used to be about attract jobs and you will attract population. And that combination would grow prosperity. It's flipped now. You have to have the workforce available for the jobs to come and stay. And that workforce is created through education systems like this. Nashville cannot rely only on in-migration. There are about 2,000 people moving into this region every month, mostly young, mostly educated. Our unemployment rate is down to 4.5%. That's virtually full employment. We're at a point where businesses cannot find the employees that they need to operate their business. When that happens, they take their jobs elsewhere. And when they take their jobs elsewhere, our prosperity begins to decline. So the urgency of what you're doing to help this middle skills workforce evolve, and by the way, many of those will also evolve out of those middle skills categories, is really urgent and immediate, and that's why it's so great to see the specific progress that you're making in attacking that issue. Okay, so now what was a seamless, organized presentation is now going to sound more ad-lib. I'm going to throw some random stats at you. First of all, our job growth through 2015 was 12.5%. We led the nation in 2 of those years for our job growth. And this is all about why what you're doing is so urgent for the entire region and for individuals. We expect that growth, by the way, to continue at about a 6% rate. In some industries like advanced manufacturing, logistics, and construction, which should be a target for a lot of these CTE students, 20% of the workforce is age 55 or older. 20%. That's an immediate issue, okay? We'll start to lose those jobs if we don't have people to step into those jobs. I was going to talk a little bit, if any of you are familiar or keep track of the Amendment 3 discussion that took place in Nashville. Let me tell you why I was going to reference it. The city of Nashville, the voters in Nashville passed a charter referendum that said that any construction business that worked on projects contracted by the Nashville-Davidson County government, 40% of those hires had to be from Davidson County. The truth is, there's not a workforce that exists in Davidson County that could have fulfilled that 40% requirement. Davidson County and jobs in Davidson County, as well as jobs throughout the region, depend on workforce from around the region. I was going to talk a little bit about that today, but the Attorney General last night issued a ruling that said that that's an unconstitutional charter amendment and it is being rendered null and void. So here's my point, my concluding point on that. The people that you will help achieve those technical certifications and those associate degrees are going to be people that are going to be doing the work that amendment would not have allowed them to do in Davidson County. Davidson County is going to have to depend on that workforce to get that work done. Other things that are hurting us for workforce, Atlanta has approved the construction of 2 new sports stadiums. There's going to be a drain of construction workforce down to those 2 places while they consume $2 billion building those facilities. So, here are some more statistics. You're going to find 1 million people from Nashville and the Clarksville MSAs who are in the prime working age of 20 to 54 over the next 5 to 10 years. More than 1 in 5 in that million working age group will still be advancing toward the upper end of the demographic. That means that there will be a continued departure from the labor force, and the young people that you're teaching right now, we're going to be depending on to fulfill that workforce. Let me see. The number of jobs available to high school graduates, high school only, is going to decline by nearly 40% over the next 5 years. In other words, what you're doing to advance these young people toward these continued certifications is really key, because the jobs won't be available for high school graduates only in the coming years. So again, the continuation of what you're doing is key. Talked a lot about middle skills. I'm gonna skip through that material because that's obviously really important. One other thing I will mention that is an important part of our strategy, there are lots of adults in the Middle Tennessee area that have some completion on degrees but have left prior to completion. Things like WGU, Reconnect Tennessee, and programs like that are also necessary so that we have the workforce that continues to generate the prosperity that we're talking about. Tech jobs, we've seen a 23% growth from 2012 to 2014, a 23% growth in the number of tech jobs being offered in this area. I mean, I have to tell you, anybody that's competed for a job position when there were fewer jobs than there were people have to see the gold mine in this local community for clear job opportunity in certain categories. STEM education and these kinds of IT jobs, I mean, that's why alignment is such a key issue. We're educating the whole person, but we have to prepare those people to participate in the prosperity of this region. And so alignment of the education we're providing is really key. And again, I come back to what I know is happening here. Not only are you on track, but you're leading the pack. This region has gone from being a place that copies the good ideas of other places to being a place that other places visit to see what we're doing. About a year ago, and just ignore the politics in this statement, it's not intended to be a political statement. A year ago, we had a visit, very quiet visit, from a guy who is the Arnie Duncan of education for Great Britain. A guy named Michael Gove. He was the Secretary of State for Education for Great Britain and the UK. He came to Nashville to visit various places to see what was happening with dual enrollment and that continuation of post-secondary work, because Jeb Bush had told him that if you want to see where education reform is working, you've got to go to Nashville. So he came to Nashville to see what was happening. You're leading in the region that is attracting attention from all over the country and even internationally because of the progress it's starting to make to prepare students to be a prosperous part of the economy. So, if you look at the county's largest employers, whether it's manufacturing like Beretta or ABC Technologies, or in distribution like the Gap and Macy's, or in healthcare like the Summit Regional Medical Center, the demand for workers with those skill levels are going to continue to grow. And again, the entire region depends on your performance, because over 200,000 people a day cross county lines to go to work. So the opportunity of the entire region is the opportunity you're preparing your students to exploit. So I'm just going to conclude with this, and if you have questions or if there's something you'd like to ask me, I'd be happy to answer. We're reliant on your system to continue to pave the way. We care about what you're doing because it is creating for the people that you're educating their opportunity to experience a lifetime of prosperity. That lifetime of prosperity is going to create personal fulfillment opportunity for all of those people and succeeding generations in the coming years. We also care because we know that that prosperity can't continue unless the good jobs continue to be built here. And so we want to help the employers, we want to help the individuals, and the number one mechanism to cause all of that to occur is in education. And what you're doing to help with that post-secondary transition is causing people to achieve those level of middle skills achievement that's going to really drive the economy at least for the next 10 years, and probably further. So, thanks for your devotion, thanks for your innovation and invention, thanks for being a leader in the region, thanks for partnering with us and with businesses in this community to do what you're doing, and please keep doing it, because I'm going to retire here and I don't want this place to go to a hell in a handbasket because we don't have a workforce that creates prosperity. So thank you all. Is there time for a question? Okay. Any questions? Yes. I do. the Nashville Chamber has created an initiative called Moving Forward, which is a regional initiative, and so yes, we're facilitating that. Yes, the question was, how does infrastructure, particularly as it relates to transit, fit into this puzzle? I'll just tell you from a Nashville Chamber priorities perspective, education is still our #1 priority. And frankly, we've begun to branch out a lot more significantly into that post-secondary arena. Transit is our #2 priority. Any of you who are history buffs, you would know that the Middle Tennessee region really entered into the regional economy, or into the global economy right after the Civil War. That when the Union came to Nashville, it established Nashville as a distribution center. They invested a lot of capital to create Nashville as a distribution center for their Western theater. When the war was over, they left. Mostly Irish railroad immigrants came over, took over that distribution system, and because we were a distributor, we became a publishing center. When we became a publishing center, we became a sheet music distributor, by the way, which was the internet of the time. And because we were a sheet music distributor, we started to attract musical talent. When we attracted musical talent, we started to create a broadcast opportunity. When we created a broadcast, we created a hospitality and tourism opportunity. All of that leads to the present time. So Nashville still continues to have a great need to be able to move goods. But what's happened to our economy becoming more of a service economy in these past 50 years is that it's become almost important to move talent as it is to move goods. So transit's a strangulation point right now. Education, we got to stay at it. We're improving. The flywheel's moving in the right direction finally, but it's not moving fast enough. We got to stay intense about that. But the most immediate threat's transit. If we don't fix transit within the next 5 to 10 years, or at least begin that fix, then we're going to go through a period of economic slowdown. It's already happening to downtown, and I know Jimmy knows this and has seen this. Downtown has become an unattractive place for businesses to think about. They're looking much more at Hendersonville, Sumner County, Murfreesboro. Franklin, Cool Springs is even suffering a little bit right now from congestion. Did that answer your question? If you're engaged in Leadership Middle Tennessee, or you're engaged in a Transit Alliance Leadership Transit Academy, then you're going to get the information you need to lead the discussion in this area. And I'd really encourage you all as educators to think about making a commitment to become engaged in that discussion, because you're going to benefit from transit as well as the students. Other questions? Okay, I just want to make sure there wasn't a hook lurking around.
I was wondering what kind of trends you are seeing for the future of Nashville in entrepreneurship and for startups.
On a national basis, on average, there's about 18% of the local economy is entrepreneurial. In Nashville, that number is 23.8%. Because we have a highly creative ambiance to the area. Risk-taking is a part of the DNA of this area that also goes back to the Civil War. The environment for entrepreneurship is really strong. What will stop that from happening is if we let that discretionary income formula shrink. Most entrepreneurs need someone to help them get over the initial hump, make a living while they're working on success. So entrepreneurship is going to continue to be strong. As you see an emerging tech community here, as long as we have electrical power, and as long as we have devices that can use that power to communicate, tablets, etc. There's a growing population in Nashville that's fueling that material with content, and a lot of entrepreneurship's happening there. So as long as we keep our discretionary income formula, it's pretty good, pretty solid. We have a culture of it. Other questions? Gosh, I'd really love to have just one more question. Okay. This is the last question.
Will you share with us your thinking about the population growth rates in the next 5 to 10 years in the Middle Tennessee region?
Nashville is going to grow at a faster rate. We're already, if you look at the 2010 census, after the 2010 census, the Census Bureau and the government establishes what they expect to be the growth rate of population for the next 10 years. And that is established by the government mainly so that they can send the proper levels of funding to different communities around the country that's tied to population growth. We are exceeding, in fact, there is probably an adjustment coming to that population rate because we are exceeding that growth rate. 2,000 people a month, and we think it's actually higher than that, is exceeding that rate. So everything you hear about us being as big as Denver by 2035, as we project the current numbers out, we're actually seeing that number achieved more in a 2030 kind of time frame. What's important about that, and this is another reason that we're such strong advocates with regards to immigration. And before we get too lit up on that issue, we know from research we're doing over the next 50 years that the regions, Nashville is the 86th largest economy in the world. Our $100 billion economy is larger than 30 countries in the world. It is half of the economy of Venezuela. It's 25% of the economy of Israel, just here in Middle Tennessee. So when we look at these long-term trends, the regions of the world that will experience prosperity are going to be regions that experience population growth at a rate higher than other places, again, because of workforce. So we want the federal government to fix its immigration strategy. We think there's, in an area that's fully employed, 4.5% unemployment, if you want to be productive, we want you to come here. We don't care where you're coming from, but we want the federal government to fix their immigration policy so that they can do that lawfully. We're also not for breaking the law, okay? So, population growth looks positive, partially because of that entrepreneurship number. This is a great place to start a business. If you're a young person, the amenities exist here that you want to live with. One little quick sidelight on young people today. I really advise people that own 6,000 square foot houses to sell them within the next 10 years. Because the demand from the future marketplace for those larger houses is shrinking quickly. The workforce that's moving into this area is dealing with a wage and salary growth that is slower than past generations. They don't really care that much. They're just shrinking their square footage requirements, shrinking their acreage requirements, and they want to live connected through a transit system and avoid having a car if possible. So Nashville, this region, has the amenities, and even though we talk about sprawl with transit, has the connections that workforce is looking for. That's all a long way, and I just want you to know I did my homework because this is an educator group. That's a long way of telling you that we're probably going to grow at a faster rate that's even been projected if we maintain our entrepreneurial ambiance, if we're preparing people for middle skills jobs, and if we get transit, we'll be sustaining higher than average population growth. See, now no one would dare ask another question after the length of that answer. So again, I'll be here. If somebody has a specific question, I'm happy to answer those. But I do want to close finally once again, and it's getting a little bit redundant. You're doing not only important work, but you're providing leadership and great work. So please keep that up. We'd like to be able to continue to offer you as an example of the things that are going right in education. So thank you all very much.